Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Hunt. I feel like I've been gone for a few weeks now. Hopefully you all tuned into George last week with some amazing content on people making the move out of public accounting. But this week I'm back and we're talking about some real pertinent topics, so I'm hoping we'll get a good viewership today. But as a reminder for those who haven't watched this prior, The Hunt is our weekly series dedicated towards helping hiring managers and job seekers navigate the ever-changing world of recruitment. As recruiting professionals, we're constantly experiencing all these different situations and scenarios on a weekly basis. So we take all of those stories, take all of those common questions, and bring them to you in live video form here every week, every Thursday. My name is Kevin Roth. I'm Managing Director at Advice. We are a boutique recruitment agency serving the New York market for over 30 years now. And we've been doing this show for going on 7-8 months already. And hopefully helped a lot of you out there. So as you're watching, the beauty of this show is you can interact live. So use the comment box. Make sure you throw your questions in there. Ask about any topics you want to hear or any topics you want to learn about or any questions that you have, or just to interact. Tell me where you're listening from, where you're watching from. Always love to get a sense of where everybody's tuning in from. So hopefully today's topic is helpful. But again, the beauty of it, meant to be interactive. So make sure you're chiming in throughout the show. So today's topic is another big one, and we've been seeing a lot of this recently, and that's about the resignation period that you give upon resigning from a company to take a new job. And it seems like, for whatever reason, there's this guilty feeling that everyone seems to get. You get ready, you're pumped up about the job, you're excited to take this new position, you're ready to leave, but the biggest thing on everyone's mind then is, like, I feel so bad leaving my company and only giving a certain amount of time. I want to be able to give them a little more time. I don't want anybody to be mad at me. So we're going to talk today about what is the standard notice period, what you should feel comfortable giving, and how you should approach the situations that come up revolving around that notice period. So if you have questions on that topic, or you're about to go through this, you're watching this show and you're a day away from turning in your resignation, make sure you ask any questions that you have before you go and have that discussion with your boss, and hopefully we'll get you well prepared to navigate around that scenario. But in terms of thinking about the notice period, most people know there's a standard out there, and that standard is 2 weeks notice. So when it comes to giving your notice and resignation, 2 weeks is across the board, without a doubt, from someone like myself that works in this industry all day, every day. 2 weeks notice is really a standard across the board. So that should really be your starting point going in, and understanding that 2 weeks is the expectation, and it's really a standard. And it's the biggest thing is it's a courtesy. That we're all at-will employees. The days of certain contracts are gone. Unless you have it baked into your employment agreement that you have to give a certain period of notice for resignation, assume 2 weeks is a courtesy. So you are doing the right thing by your company. You're also doing something that's standard across the country for every level of employment, every job, unless otherwise dictated. 2 weeks is your go-to. It's standard. So when you're thinking about this, instead of feeling all guilt-ridden, and when your company, they're going through a tough time, they got a lot going on, you feel bad leaving your team, you need to give them a little more room, think about the fact that you are not doing anything that anybody expects elsewhere of you. If your company's sitting there, they're obviously going to want more time from you. They want to get as much as they can out of you. They know it's going to take a little time to replace you. So it's in their best interest to push you for more, but you are doing yourself a disservice by feeling any sense of guilt giving 2 weeks notice. It is the absolute standard across the board. And I mean, you got to think about it logically. To feel guilty doing something that everyone knows is a standard, it's just illogical. You got to think of, like, say you go to a restaurant and you're eating with friends, you have decent service, pretty standard service, everything was good, things came out on time, nothing was completely ruined, but nothing was over the top, and you tip 20%. Server comes, looks at the bill, and gives you like a little attitude, or you can tell from the look they weren't happy. And you feel guilty the rest of this time. Well, man, did I tip enough? I should have tipped 25%, should have tipped 30%. But standard across the board for everywhere is 15 to 20%. 20% is a great tip. So feeling guilty about something that across the country is considered a standard, it's just not fair to yourself. So recognize that and let that hit home. the other thing to think about is to turn the tables. Everyone feels so intrinsically guilty leaving their company. In 2 weeks isn't enough time. I'm in a senior role. I have a critical function. Well, think about if the tables were turned around, right? And if the company, for whatever reason, had to make certain cutbacks. Major clients fell through, COVID hit, pandemic came out of nowhere, and the company had to make cutbacks, and they had to make them now in order to cut costs. They don't have the luxury of sitting there, and they wouldn't sit there and say, well, we'll let him go today or let her go today, but let's tell her we'll keep her on, keep her working for like 2-3 weeks or so, just to help you find a new job. Or better yet, let's say they didn't think you were the greatest fit for the company and they wanted to find your replacement. When they were getting close in the interview process to a finalist, would they really come to you and sit you down and say, hey, we're close to finalizing a candidate for you that's going to replace you? So we just wanted to give you like a 2 weeks heads up because more likely than not, we're going to hire this person and you're going to be out of work in 2 weeks. So we want to give you that courtesy. It doesn't work that way. So stop feeling guilty as if you're doing something wrong by this company when you have a dream opportunity sitting in front of you. You want to get started as soon as you can. Stop thinking so selflessly about leaving these companies in a bad spot. This is part of the nature of what we do. People change jobs, and we have that 2-week standard because there should be a courtesy baked in, right? Help them transition some things. Help ease yourself out of the role. Help them maybe even set up a job description for the new position. But you're not staying there to stay employed. You're staying there for 2 weeks to help transition. And that's the third big thing to remember. This notice period is not to give them 2 weeks of extra work. It's to help set them up to best transition so you're not leaving your company high and dry. So a lot of people say, well, Kevin, I have this, we have a deadline coming up. It's a month out. I really don't want to leave them before the deadline. And I'd love to give 4 weeks notice. Well, again, keep in mind, you're not giving notice to steadily, to do more work and have them get more labor out of you. You're doing it to help set them up for a transition period. So that thought process should not be there. And keep in mind, there is never a good time to make a move. I could have a whole segment on stories that happen when someone's about to resign that completely throw a wrench in things. I had one situation, person was about to resign. They got the courage up that day. They were going to give 2 weeks notice. And then the person before them, one of their colleagues went in like 30 minutes before them and resigned to their boss. So they find this out. They were about to give 2 weeks notice. Now they're sitting there saying, can I even resign now because I'm going to leave them in a horrible spot, but I got to at least give them like a month or so to find a replacement. But you can't feel guilty. Nothing will ever work out perfectly. You have to focus on the future and really feel good that you're moving on to a good place. So again, if you have questions around this, definitely work those into the conversation. Use the comment box to chime in and ask those questions so that I can make sure I touch on different situations because every scenario is a little different. But remember a few things. Number one, 2 weeks is standard across the board. Number two, if the tables were turned and the company were in a situation where they wanted to replace you, they thought they found a better fit for the company or whatever it is, they're not giving you a 2 week heads up. They're not giving you a month heads up so you could start making moves. It just so happens that the employee, for whatever reason, has to give 2 weeks notice to the employer, but the employer can fire the employee at any point. So that in itself should make you feel a little imbalanced and should make you that much more comfortable in giving 2 weeks notice. I compare it to the sports world. There's a great analogy where, you have all these athletes, and until like recently, the company held, the team held all the cards. The team wanted to trade an athlete. They didn't have to tell him, give him a heads up. They didn't have to really do anything to do right by them. They would just trade the athletes. Some of these athletes used to hear stories. They find out they were out at the beach with their family, and one of their friends texted them that, hey, I heard you got traded, and that's how they found out. But if the player ever spoke up and wanted to leave, it was like taboo. And that's the way we work in like American culture in terms of thinking about things. The fact that you're feeling guilty about moving on to a new job is crazy. So give your 2 weeks, hold firm to it, feel good that you're doing right by everyone involved. You're not doing anything wrong. And if you need to do some things after the fact, you need to make yourself available, you're not going anywhere. You'll be around, but get started, get that momentum going with the new place. So Ken asks, what if you live and work at the same place? So Ken, can you just clarify a little bit for me what you mean by that and how that would impact how you go about giving notice. So in terms of living and working in the same place, are you talking about in real estate and like property management? Give me a little more color, and hopefully I can help guide you through that and give you a little bit better perspective. But again, 2 weeks is the standard across the board. And I want to talk about a few frequently asked questions that come up when we're dealing with this situation. So number one is we're in remote, right? Most of the people are remote right now. Is 2 weeks still enough? Do you still have to give 2 weeks? What's the situation there? Easy answer. We're going to keep this simple. 2 weeks is still the standard. Whether you're in person or remote, you're doing this to give your company time to transition out, and in order to best facilitate their smooth transition into a new hire. So whether you're doing that from home or you're doing that from an office, 2 weeks remains the standard courtesy to give to any company. All right. The second question that comes up a lot is, I'm in a more senior role. I'm in a more critical position. Can I really, transition things that quickly? Again, unless it's baked into your contract and into your agreement, 2 weeks, regardless of leveling. I've had CFOs give 2 weeks notice. They'll still make themselves available when needed, but they need to move on. The new company that's hiring them, the new company that's hiring you at that level needs you on board. So do right by your company, give them the proper notice, help them transition, make yourself available. But regardless of level, whether you're an entry-level employee or a very senior person, 2 weeks, still the standard. Next question that comes up, what if your new company wants you on board sooner? Well, this is a little different situation. You have to then feel how comfortable are you leaving your company with less than the standard notice. If you feel like it's something you want to do, then that's on you. But don't let a company bully you into not giving 2 weeks notice. And what you can do in that situation, if they ask, they really want you sooner, it's a real priority, let them know that, hey, I can help with some projects if you want me to get started or get ramped up on things. In the meantime, I could read up on whatever I need to. I could try to do some work kind of after hours leading up to it. But it's really important for me to do right by my company. And I'm sure you would expect the same from anybody who was moving on from you guys. I hope you can appreciate that. Any company holds firm, they need you in a week and they don't care that you're leaving your company high and dry. I'd be a little concerned about the ethics of that company and if that's really a place I want to kind of set myself up. All right. And then last question is the obvious one of your company asking you to stay longer. Can you give us another week? Can you give us another 2 weeks? And like I mentioned, just hold firm. Feel very confident and comfortable that you are doing nothing wrong. On the contrary, you're doing what most other people know to do. The wrong thing would be to not give them any notice. So you should feel very comfortable letting them know you'll make yourself available. If they need things, you'll get to them as soon as you can. But this company needs you to start. They need you on board. You appreciate everything. You hope they can appreciate that you're doing right by them. And then you move forward. Okay, so hopefully this helps give everyone a little bit more of a comfort level coming from someone who works in this industry every single day and sees these situations play out every day. I'm seeing too many people nervous and worried. Too many of you out there are too selfless. If there's ever a time to be selfish, it's when it comes to your career, because I promise you, if the tables were turned, the same level of selflessness would not come from your company or probably from most of your colleagues. The boss that is asking you to stay extra, if you had a great opportunity staring him in the face and he knew it was jeopardizing that opportunity to stay longer, he's out the door. He's not worried about, I'm leaving my team and they're going to have to pick up my slack. They have to do what's right for them, and you have to do the same thing. So with that said, I want to get to a few questions that some of you had, and make sure you continue to throw these questions in. We'll spend a couple more minutes going through these, and then you could always reach out after the fact. But Ken, so you're asking, so you have an apartment that comes with the job. So this is a little trickier, Ken. This is a fun situation. So you have an apartment that comes with your job, and you would want to give notice, but you obviously have to move out of your apartment and get into a new place, find a place to live. So I guess the first thing would be to figure out if you have another apartment waiting for you the day you start. Because if that's the case, then I guess it's a pretty seamless transition. If you need to find a new apartment because one doesn't come with your new position, so you need to essentially live here while you move on, this stuff happens a lot. And you'd like to think, listen, they need to make rent. You like to think the company's not going to evict you because they have hard feelings that you're quitting. So what I would probably work out with them is I would try to work out some arrangement where you can, pay certain rent to be able to stay there on a week-to-week basis until you get yourself set up. But that all depends on just the conversation and the dynamic. I guess it could play out a few different ways. If they need to hire a new resident manager who's going to live there, then you might be in a situation where you'll have to find another apartment. But I'd like to think most places, just because you're moving on to a better opportunity, wouldn't kick you out on the street. And I'm sure there's laws that protect against that in some way, shape, or form. And Jody, I hope I answered your question as well. Jody Fox asking, what do you do when a company wants you as soon as possible, but the current company needs you to finish a project? And just to reiterate, you got to try to balance those expectations. And if it comes down to you jeopardizing your new opportunity to help your old company, that's where you have to draw the line. Your loyalty is shifting. So feel comfortable. Have that conversation with your new company. Have it directly. Reach out to them. Let them know, here's the situation. You want to show loyalty to them. You really want to show that you value them and you're doing right by them. You have this project. You're kind of torn. You feel like you want to get it done. Do they need you sooner? If so, you'll make it work. If not, you'd really appreciate the extra week or so to finish out this project, and see what they say. Feel them out in real time, but show that your priority and your preference is to them first, that they have first right of refusal if you should finish that project or not. And that'll put them at ease, that their back's not up against the corner. You're not showing that you're still loyal to this other company, but it'll show them that they're your first choice. If they need you sooner, you'll make it work. If it's not a big deal to them, you can finish the project, but they have the option. And I think that's where you really have to set the right message. Right. So if we don't have any other questions right now, I just want to wrap up by reinforcing that no one out there, if you're about to give notice, you shouldn't be nervous, worried about your team. They'll get over it. They'll reach out to me. I'll hire your replacement. You can introduce them and refer them to me in these great segments, and we'll help find the replacement and make you feel better when we find them someone great to replace you. But no, in all seriousness, this happens every day. People hire, people get fired, people quit, people leave. It happens all the time, and there's an industry standard set over decades and decades of historical data of people cycling through jobs. 2 weeks is a great standard. Live by it. Don't feel guilty. Don't get pressured into giving more time, and just navigate through it and feel good about it. This should be a happy time. Going in to give notice, it should be bittersweet in that if you're leaving behind coworkers that you like, people that you enjoy working with, but it should be happy for you. You should be looking forward. 2 weeks, I'll help you transition, and then I'm on to brighter pastures ahead. And that's the good feeling you should have. It shouldn't be this guilty, miserable feeling that someone's making you feel guilty for leaving. All right. So with that said, I hope everyone enjoyed another episode of The Hunt. Thank you so much for the engagement and the interaction. I'll be checking the comments throughout the week. Continue to post. If you're not watching this live and you're watching this after the fact, make sure you reach out. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me personal messages if there's specific topics that I can help with. And make sure you follow Advice Personnel on LinkedIn. We're constantly putting out content. We're touching on a new topic every single week in these live episodes. And we love being able to help, whether you're a hiring manager or a job seeker looking for a new position. We love being able to help. So make sure you like and follow Advice Personnel. Comment and share this post with any colleagues, coworkers, friends who you think might benefit from it. And most importantly, make sure you tune in every week, every Thursday, for a brand new episode of The Hunt. Thank you so much for tuning in. Love all our viewers. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Thursday and your long weekend. Special shout out to my wife, Jenna Fox. Her birthday is Monday. So if you know her, wish her a happy birthday. Everyone take care. Have a great weekend.